Okay. Good evening and welcome to this January 10th, 2022 Slovenia Board of Education organizational meeting. Mr. Dornbush, can you call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Conklin.
Here.
Mrs. Lavalette.
Here.
Ms. Huffman.
Here.
Mrs. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Feller.
Here.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First order of business is I would like to move that we appoint Jeff Dornbush as our interim treasurer.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Dornbush, can you call the roll?
Ms. Huffman.
Yes.
Mr. Feller.
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin.
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette.
Yes.
And Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, I guess we're with swearing in our new member, Jill Johnson. You can rise.
Would you like to do that right here?
Yep.
Camera, is that going to be on video or so you can see?
In the video seat?
Can the video see, or do you want to move over here?
You want to go over here in the middle?
Yeah.
Oh, I see the welcome and call to order is next. I skipped that. That's all right.
Raise your right hand, put your hand on the Bible.
Probably should have.
I'm going to read this and then we'll begin to say it. Okay. Do you, Mrs. Jill Johnson, solemnly swear that you shall support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you shall faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge all duties incumbent upon you as a member of the Sylvania School Board according to the best of your ability and understanding? If you accept this oath of office, please say I do.
I do.
Congratulations.
Okay. Officially welcome aboard, Jill.
Thank you.
Nice stuff. And with that, I move to open nominations for president, the election of the president of the board, and I nominate Greg Feller.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? Then I move that we close nominations. Somebody needs to second that.
I'll second. Oh, I second.
Okay. Everybody did. Literally everyone,
Just
Jeff.
pick one.
Okay, and with that, can you call the roll, Mr. Dornbush?
Yes. Ms. Huffman.
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin.
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette.
Yes.
Mr. Feller.
Yes.
Congratulations.
The switching of the
We're gonna
chairs.
switch. Oh, I'm gonna take this.
You can reach there if you want.
Do you want to be me?
No, I don't.
Then you have to be smart.
It's gonna be weird.
Why is this chair so tall? You're short.
You're already starting early. So low.
All right. So next on the agenda is election of vice president. I will open up nominations for the vice president, and I will nominate Kim Conklin.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? All right. I will move that we close nominations.
Second.
Mr. Dornbush?
Mr. Feller.
Yes.
Ms. Huffman.
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin.
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette.
Yes.
And Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Kim.
Congrats.
So next on the agenda is board committee appointments. So, Julie, did we just go down the list?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
here,
do
this
it.
was yours.
Oh.
Just, so I passed out a list of all the board members of all the committees that we have and the people that were currently in those positions, just for reference. So I guess first is ACE team. Is it, do we have to, is this like nominations, or we just
No, we just.
volunteer? And
Volunteer.
okay. So first is ACE, and it was Julie and Ruslan. So we have an open position there. Does anybody, do you want to stay, I assume?
I do. Yes.
Okay, does anybody else would
Thank
like
you.
to join the ACE team?
I will.
Tammy? Okay.
Sure.
All right. Julie and Tammy. I don't have a pen. Did you write this
I
down?
got you.
Okay. Communications committee. Communications committee. That was Ruslan and Kim.
I'll stay.
You'll stay.
I
Okay.
would volunteer for that.
Okay. Next is facilities, and that was me and Tammy. I'd like to stay on that.
I would too.
Okay. And then finance, again, me and Tammy.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Northwest Ohio School Board Legislative Committee, that was Kim.
I can keep it.
Okay. OPSI LMRC, that was Julie and Kim.
I would like to volunteer for that.
Okay. Kim, you good?
So yeah, Jill can have that.
Okay. Okay. Ohio School Boards Association Annual Business Meeting Delegate.
When you
Hard
attended
pass.
this fall.
Hard pass.
This
Hard
fall.
pass. This is like not it.
Yeah. Would anybody like to do that? It's great. It's fantastic.
It's my birthday next year, so
That's
I'm probably
not
not gonna go.
That's not at Capitol Conference?
Yes.
It is at,
That's the annual business meeting, the delegate at the annual
is
business
that the one that
meeting.
you went to?
It was great. I loved it.
That
I'll
was-
do it.
That was the
Awesome.
sentiment that you were expressing when you were there.
Ohio School Boards Association Legislative Liaison. Kim, that was you last year.
Wasn't that the, oh, I
No,
was,
so
I was
I don't know what
school
that's-
board and Ohio School Board, so
Yeah, so to be fair, like that's when you see those legislative
Right.
things, if there's anything to report.
I just get all the emails.
Yeah, we
And-
all get all the emails, but you would report on it, so I think,
Okay.
yeah, Tammy loves that stuff.
I do.
You do.
Tammy?
Tammy, you take that.
All right.
All right, Tammy. Ohio School Board Student Achievement Representative. That was Ruslan, so that's an open spot.
I'll take that then, since
Take
I'm,
that, okay. Permanent improvements, Julie, that was you.
Sure, we didn't even meet once last year.
Okay. Policy Committee, that was you and I last year. Isn't that, is that
It's
typically?
President and Vice President.
Okay, so Kim, you good at that?
okay.
Public Records Designee, that was me last year. I'll keep that. That's
Well,
fine.
no, so.
Or does that
so-
have to switch?
So that's the thing, like I would almost think Jill should do it because that's when you do that sunshine laws training and somebody has to do it every
Oh,
year.
okay.
So we should swap it each year so that if there's anything new or anything, so I would say
Okay.
Jill's
Jill,
got-
you good at
she's-
that?
You probably just did the training, right?
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I can do that, not a problem.
Okay. Records Commission, it looks like that's the president, so I guess that's me. SEA LMRC,
Yeah, I
that
got the-
was you and me. I wouldn't mind staying on that. If everyone's okay.
Oh, okay. I was
Well,
gonna
you're on
volunteer.
OPSI already.
Right,
LMRC, do you mind if I stay on SEA?
of course not.
Okay. So this is on the list, Superintendent Advisory Committee? I
That's
don't,
coming along. Yep, we want that.
what's that?
We want that. We want to add that.
So do we want to,
Yeah, so those generally
I don't-
are those generally are finance, facilities, communications.
So,
Those
okay.
are- That's what those are.
so that's not a separate committee?
No, no, no,
So
no.
there are, those
Gotcha.
committees fall under the superintendent's committee, advisory committee? Okay.
Yeah, so communications, permanent
Facilities.
improvement, facilities, finance, those are
Got you.
all policy, those are all
Okay,
under you.
Well, double asterisk those next year so we know that those are all encompassing.
yeah,
It's like those are subcategories under the superintendent's
Yes.
advisory. Got it.
okay.
Thank you.
Transportation also.
Sylvania
Okay.
Community Services, that was Ruslan last year. So does anybody want to,
I can do that. Is
Yeah,
that
okay.
Sylvania Area Family Services?
No.
No. This is the one, Claire Proctor, is she retired?
Yes,
she just
Just
did.
retired, but it's the senior center, they have a preschool,
ET program.
ET, yeah, so that's what it is.
Okay.
They're good partners of ours, I was on it.
You'll take
Okay,
that?
sure, I'll do that.
Sajard, that's me. I wouldn't mind keeping that, unless anybody else wants it.
No, thank you.
Anybody? No? All right.
You.
The Community Improvement Corporation, that was me. Again, I'll keep it unless somebody else wants it. Okay. Sylvania Prevention Alliance, which is formerly SCAT. That was Julie and Tammy.
Yeah, I'll stay, I'm
You
on
guys
the
wanna s-
governance, so
Okay.
I think they get mad if I turn.
Yeah.
I feel
You
like
wanna
I haven't
stay?
been on it long enough to be off of it.
Okay. Sylvania Schools Foundation. That was Julie and Ruslan last year. So does anybody want to do that?
I'm happy to stay.
I will if nobody else wants it.
I'll do it.
Okay.
We meet Wednesday this week.
Never mind.
It's once a month.
And then SSPO, that was Julie and Kim. Do you guys want to keep that?
I mean, I'll keep it if no one wants it, but I'm happy to give it up if somebody wants it.
Anyone else?
Does anybody else
I'll
want
stay on
SSPO?
it. Julie's been on it for a while.
Yeah, I'm on it.
I can.
You want to do it? Okay.
Yeah,
So Kim and Jill?
Okay.
Okay. And then transportation is the last one. That was me and Ruslan. So I'll stay on that. And then does anybody else want to do transportation?
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, it's all you.
I'll take,
Rock, paper,
I'll take
scissors?
Russ's place.
All right. Okay. All right, and that is all of our committees.
So you need a vote on that, right? You need to vote.
Do we need to vote on
It's
this?
an action.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I will move that we accept the nominations for the board committee appointments.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Dornbush, call the roll.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
And Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
All right, Dr. Motley, we're with you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to present our schedule of monthly meetings for both regular and work sessions. That includes also the location of those monthly meetings. Before, we did send a draft to each of our board members. However, we identified today that because we are returning to in-person kindergarten orientations or kindergarten roundup type meetings this spring, we do have an early conflict. Monday, January 24th, starting that meeting at 6 o'clock is the same time the kindergarten roundup event takes place at Highland. So we would like to keep next Monday's meeting at 5 o'clock. So those of us who are involved in the kindergarten orientation with our parents can attend. I would really rather maybe displace 5 of us or 7 of us involved in this meeting than all the incoming kindergarten parents. I feel it's imperative that I'm there to be a voice of the district, but you will notice that we are recommending that work sessions are held here at the administration building. Others will be held at Timberstone or the administration office. Please note that throughout the year, course of the school year, those locations can change and be moved around, so we encourage our families to make sure they look at our calendars and our district calendar to find out where we are, but this is our agenda at this point in time. Sometimes due to certain events, I think it's important to know, or if there is a issue that comes to light that we have a lot of information that parents may want to attend, we may choose to move a location due to feedback or input or public comment. We did change the meeting time to 6 p.m. in general for all meetings. This past year they were held at 5, but again with the exception of Monday, January 24th for our incoming kindergartners. So I recommend the calendar be approved for the 2022 school year for monthly meetings.
All right, we will accept a motion for approval of the calendar.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Miss Jill.
Mr. Dornbush, call the roll.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 8.1, our membership renewal for our district. We ask that the treasurer be authorized to renew our membership in the Ohio School Boards Association at an annual cost of $7,763.
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second.
I gotta get used to looking at you over here.
I'm pushing in a second. Mr. Dornbush, call the roll.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
And Mr. Feller?
Yes. So item 9.1 is a recommendation to appoint the board president as treasurer pro tem in the absence of the treasurer.
I'll
Is
move
there a
approval.
motion? I'll second. Any other discussion? Mr. Dornbush?
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
And Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Item 9.2 is Texas collected. What's this for?
This is the advances of tax collections that you're able to have the treasurer serve to collect the tax dollars in the district throughout the calendar year of 2022.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
And Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Service one.
Yep, next item 9.3 is the service fund appropriation. Am I supposed to read all this or just?
No, you can just say it.
Okay.
For the service
Just the
fund.
service fund appropriation.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
And Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Item 9.4 is to authorize the superintendent to accept resignations throughout the year. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes. And then last item 9.5 is employment of temporary personnel to authorize the superintendent to employ temporary personnel as needed. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to add, this was something we brought new to the district last year, and it has really played an important role when we've had to hire personnel in between board meetings, and that means custodians, bus drivers, and educators, that we can start them in between board meetings. So thank you for giving me this ability to do so, because it means we can get folks into place sooner than waiting 2 weeks for a board meeting. So I just appreciate it. It's been quite effective to help our buildings and the function and operations of our schools.
Good, thank you. Mr. Dornbush, call the roll.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
And Mr. Feller?
Yes. All right, item 10.1 is the appointment of board counsel. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
How is this list comprised?
That's a very good question. All our inherited firms that we've worked with in the past, outside I did add one that I've worked with from the Cleveland area, which is Walter and Haverfield, which is another educational-based law firm that is quite reputable throughout Ohio. So I would like to move forward with them to give us an opportunity to have another opinion when necessary, or a primary opinion when it deals with matters related to special education or negotiations or other employment issues.
Okay. Anything else? All right, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Conklin? Ms.
Yes.
Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes. And item 11 is adjournment of the organization meeting, so I'll make a move that we adjourn.
Second.
Discussion. All right, call the roll.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
All right, now we're gonna move right. So just start with the second one? Yeah. All right, I would like to call this January 10th, 2022 Board of Education work session meeting to order. Mr. Dornbush, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Conklin?
Here.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yeah,
Ms.
here.
Huffman?
Yes. Here.
Mrs. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Feller?
Here. And Dr. Malley, with you.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight in my superintendent's report, I really would like to focus on some information around our current status with COVID and how it's impacting our schools, more specifically the pandemic and quarantining, facial coverings, and even more importantly, how it's impacting, which I call the burden behind the numbers, in regards to our classrooms, transportation, child nutrition, and attendance. First and foremost, I wanted to share that I did misspeak earlier yesterday when I sent you an email. There were 2 Lucas County Health Department meetings. One was today, and there is another one tomorrow. But the good news is I was very much able to attend today's meeting, and I'm glad I did, because Toledo Lucas County Health Department did share some information that I found interesting. And I do want to let you know that Lucas County Health Department has aligned their protocols with ODH. As a recommendation from our Board of Education, I did take the opportunity to reach out from the Ohio Department of Health, located in Columbus, Ohio. I did not return a call back, so I will try again with an email, because I will be persistent. I'm sure they're inundated with so many messages, but a couple of points of information. Right now in Lucas County, for children between the ages of 0 and 17, there is a 3% hospitalization rate. That means approximately 1 child every day in this age group is admitted to the hospital. However, right now the individuals between the ages of 60 and 69 actually have the highest level of hospitalizations, and they are typically unvaccinated. In addition, half the tests that are recorded in the state of Ohio that are positive or are recorded as positive, however, that does not include those tests that people take at home. So if you went to Walgreens or Rite Aid or CVS, those results typically or may not be reported to the state as positive cases. Right now, Cuyahoga County plateaued in the last week, and according to the Toledo Lucas County Health Department, we typically fall, all things staying the same, all things holding true, about 2.5 weeks behind their numbers, which leads us to around the end of January, the latest of early February, that they think we will be through this challenging zone of time. Also, we had some specific questions about our own district. First of all, we sent some information to you last week in Soup Notes, and I shared out additional information today. Jane Spurgeon is serving as our interim executive director of human capital, and she was able to review the numbers and dig a little deeper today. And I want to let you know that the numbers are better than what we first realized with how we were calculating our percentages of employee absences. So on January 4th, we had about 11.8% of our staff, and this includes all categories, that were absent. On January 5th, we had 13.2% absent. January 6th, we had 11.7% absent. January 7th, which was Friday, we had 12.9% absent. And today, January 10th, we had 10.8% of our employees absent. So I thought it was important to share that. In addition, some data that I thought was important to share were absences of students in our buildings as of last Friday, last Tuesday, January 4th, and I will share with you that there is an uptick. These absences, however, do include some detail related to field trips or travel for family reasons, not school reasons. On January 4th, we had 775 students absent in the district. January 5th, we had 823 student absences. January 6th, we had 906 student absences. January 7th, we had exactly 1,000 student absences. And today we had 1,045 student absences. Please note those absences do include isolations and quarantines. One of the conversations that are actually before us tonight is having a discussion related to our thoughts about switching our current protocol from a 10-day quarantine to a 5-day quarantine, which has since been recommended by CDC, the Ohio Department of Health, and now Toledo Lucas County Health Department. And for those who are here tonight and those who may be watching this taping at a later date, I want to let you know that test to play is still in play for students who are unvaccinated. Vaccinated students are still okay to play if they are monitoring their symptoms and wearing a mask when exposed. Also, mask to stay, which was a question from Ms. Lavalette, is also still in place. If a student is asymptomatic, however, a test is no longer required in 5 days. That was a change at the state level. It used to be automatically required that you had to have a test 5 days later. That requirement has also turned now into a strong recommendation. In-school exposure, the definition remains the same in those areas typically with 6 feet or less social distancing and without mask, or 3 feet or less without masking. And what we have found that typically is cafeterias in our buildings where kids are eating and they're sitting close together and we no longer have plexiglass, but they don't have their mask on constantly. Also, there was a question in regards to what's the definition of fully vaccinated students or adults. Fully vaccinated means 2 shots within and up to 6 months. So if you had your 2 shots within the last 6 months, you are considered vaccinated. However, entering into your 7th month, you are no longer considered fully vaccinated unless you have your booster. So your first point is, if you are within your first 6 months window of having your 2 shots, you're vaccinated. After 6 months, you are required to have a booster to be considered fully vaccinated. One of the things that came out from our meeting today, which is also something that we've heard most recently, that cloth masks are not recommended. However, it is recommended to wear a disposable blue mask, which many of us have on this evening. And if you want to wear a cloth mask, it's recommended that you place a cloth mask or a facial covering over the blue mask. Also, it's important to note that right now, COVID, all forms of it, are still considered a Class A disease. This disease classification is determined at the state level. It is not a Lucas County decision. It is a state level decision. Until the state changes this particular disease to a Class B, we will still be required to practice protocols, quarantining, isolation, and also notification of parents. I've heard from our principals and I've heard from a number of parents the number of letters they receive in a given day. And for those of you who have students or children in our schools, you may receive multiple letters in a day. That is following the protocol that is determined by the state because it is a Class A disease. I will say that the Toledo-Lucas County Health Department has been on state calls with the Ohio Department of Health and sometimes even with the governor, and the first question out of their mouth is, so when is this changing? Because many school districts and many folks are carrying the burden of reporting the number of isolations, and it's difficult to keep up with the number of isolations and more so the number of quarantines. More specifically, a greater challenge is now, and if we continue like others to move toward a 5-day window, the backlog of getting the results back. If you go for a test, sometimes you get the results back in a day. Depending on where you go to take a test, you might not get your results back for 2 or 3 days. And depending on when that falls, you may be beyond or within your 5-day window and be back in your 5-day window to return to your environment, and then you get your letter after. And that's one of the things that we as school superintendents have said, just the burden of trying to do an intake process, really go through the process of getting our results to our families, knowing that families are going to different locations to get results, and just having to have that turnaround time is a difficult challenge. And many are falling short of being able to keep up with the process, or those that are in the queue. Right now, Toledo-Lucas County has a Gold Star standard, which recommends that we stick to the 10-day quarantine protocol. However, we all know that the CDC, ODH, has recommended an alternative quarantine, and that was the one that was most recently put out there by the CDC in regards to having 5 days from the date of last exposure and have a 5-day window for quarantining. So I would like to open it up to a dialogue to see where our board stands at this point, knowing this information right now, or any questions that you have or comments that you would like to make known. or other areas, since I will have another opportunity tomorrow to be on with folks from all over the area outside of just the superintendents. Any questions, thoughts, or comments?
So, I have a question. Is the 5-day quarantine for the positive cases,
Yes.
it's 5 days from your first symptom onset?
Yes, onset of symptoms, 5
5
days
days,
from
and
the
then at the
onset.
end of those 5 days, you have to be symptom-free.
Correct.
Are we requiring any sort of, like, they've been passing out these home tests. Say someone takes this test on their own without the proctor, and they test positive, and are we requiring something more formal than that?
We are not.
Okay.
We are
So
not.
at that point, they call into school, my child tested positive, their symptoms started this day.
Mhm.
Okay.
Correct. Now, once they tell us they have tested positive, we will put them in the queue,
All right.
and we will do the paperwork and the calculation. But again, sometimes I will tell you the stress of that, and Mr. Zeroff, who works directly with Mr. Verhulst, can share with you. Over a weekend, sometimes on a Monday morning, we may start the day with 150
Right.
to process. And some of those are, they think they have been in contact with someone who is potentially positive. So they're not even all isolations. And part of the difficulty is if you have 150 names, to contact trace all those folks, and some will say, Julie Hoffman was positive. Well, I was with Julie, so she might be positive, but I don't have any symptoms. And to really go through the algorithm of, do you stay home or do you not? The good thing is now that we're masked, unless you manifest symptoms, we're telling you to come to school. If you catch it at school, if you were with Julie in school, but if you were with Julie at Kroger,
She doesn't go to Kroger's.
because that's outside of the school environment, then that follows a totally different protocol. And for each of you, I actually have the hard copy from the Toledo Lucas County Health Department
So,
that actually has the revised.
Can I ask a question then about the numbers that you gave us? The people,
The teachers or the students?
the students, and those weren't, those were absences, not necessarily quarantines or isolations. Oh, this is for me. So the quarantines and isolations that we're reporting on our COVID dashboard, are all of those, are we finding, and maybe this might be a better question for Tim or even for Bob, are we finding that people are self-quarantining? You know, people, I have COVID in my household, everyone's vaccinated, but we're staying home type thing? Or are all of these quarantines official Lucas County Health Department quarantines?
I'll turn that over to Tim.
We request that everybody turns an outside exposure in for a form, and to have the paperwork filled out. And I know Dr. Motley alluded to this, our building principals kind of with like switching to the 5 days, and it's getting to the point where last spring, if you were positive, if you had to isolate or quarantine, you were getting that notice within 24 hours. With the number of cases that are coming through, you're lucky to get it within 72 hours right now. So our building principals are spending a lot of their time not being educational leaders. They're filling out paperwork every day. I worry about coming down to check on Bob Verhulst, our student services director, because that's all he's done. But going back to your question, it is recommended they've done that. We can't prove people are not. I will say just conversations, not so much in this district or others. I think people are starting to do that, like whether it be either symptoms or exposure, we're just going to take care of it at home. My kid's got a cough, we're not getting him or her tested. We're just going to keep them home until those symptoms reside, and then we can send them back to school. Can I guarantee that's happening in our district? No, but conversations I've had with other district personnel in the area, we assume that may be starting to happen a little bit more.
And the reason I ask is only because I noticed, we had a family member that got it in the fall, and we were all vaccinated, and nobody ever quarantined us. So I was wondering, where are these quarantines coming from if the only person that was quarantined was the student that tested positive? So I just guess I kind of wondered where they're...
And a lot of that's based on the reporting. Like if you're positive and we ask you what other family members potentially in our district were did you expose, That's kind of up to that person and an honor system on what they report.
So these quarantines are typically self-selected quarantines then? I mean, if they're not being quarantined based upon in-school exposure by the
Correct.
school,
Correct. So-
and it doesn't seem like Lucas County is reaching out to family, at least not in my
Yeah,
experience,
not
to
like
quarantine
that.
family members,
And-
so.
And they do, like for example, yesterday morning, we had some families turn in numerous potential contacts. They tested positive, they have students in the district that were exposed where, because it was an out-of-school.
There's sort of
exposure-
voluntary quarantines,
Yes,
and those are the
basically.
ones that are being reported on our
Yes.
dashboard, like the
Yes.
90 or so, okay.
Yeah. That and we're, with the lunches, when they're not masked, there could be some quarantine.
Mhm.
And that's the only time within our schools unless.
That would be pretty
it's
limited, but.
Yeah, it would be limited within the
3
6
foot
feet,
radius,
and then
yeah.
if they're vaccinated, they can mask to stay as well.
Okay.
But on the quarantine, so you said the mask to stay policy is still in effect, right?
That is
So
correct.
the quarantines are theoretically only people who are exposed outside of school?
Outside of school, correct.
Okay.
Or
Or
if they
somebody
choose
that's
to,
within
yeah.
3 feet that's not vaccinated. Correct?
I thought the mask to
Not
stay.
in school?
Since
Oh,
we have
okay.
school, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Oh,
even
not
that-
with us wearing the mask?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't matter. My understanding is the mask to stay, it doesn't matter your vaccination status. If you're exposed in school, you
As
can
long
stay
as-
in school
Yes.
as long as you're symptom-free.
Got it.
You just have to wear a mask.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Exactly.
Okay.
I have a
So-
few more questions, if,
Oh,
do you mind?
Certainly.
The staff percentages you were giving, do you have any sense of what kind of staff absenteeism level would force some kind of a closure?
I've done some research with that. In fact, in Cabinet, it was great to have a bunch of folks around the table who were here during H1N1. And at that point, they were looking at thresholds of 20 or 25%, is that correct? 25%, when they were looking at closing either a school or closing the district. So I'm thinking at this point that would be a similar threshold for what we would consider. Now, it also depends in some regards what categories. I know a district close to us, contiguous to us, they had 8 bus drivers that were out. 8 drivers for a transportation of the size of that district is significant. 8 for us, we can kind of maneuver. So we would need to look at really the size of the department, the burden of their responsibilities and what that looks like. Again, this morning during Cabinet, we were told, I believe there was one school that had 0 custodial service. So we are doing some patchwork. We'll pull someone from this building, put them over to this building to make sure that we can maintain our sanitation protocols, because we find that's the #1 priority. So trash may not be empty tonight, but are we doing our sanitation protocols and throughout the day so we're keeping folks safe?
Could I say something?
Sure.
I believe that we, I believe that we should go to the 5-day. The data is showing that even if you do contract COVID, that by the 5th day, if it's a mild case, which this current variant is, your symptoms are over and you will test negative at that point, or should test negative. Now, there's always outliers to everything. I think it's certainly the absentee rate is increasing incrementally here, and I think that we should probably give serious consideration to the 5-day quarantine. I think that would be wise in many ways, and I also think that part of that is even if you're asymptomatic and you come back to school, and let's say we aren't under a mask mandate, at that point you still are supposed to be wearing a mask for 5 days when you return. So
Yeah, I've told you this before, I agree. I think we should follow the CDC recommendations as well.
Tim, is Bob going to be able to handle adding on the burden of figuring out how recently people have been vaccinated and whether they've had the booster and whether their 2 vaccinations were 6 months ago or not, or, all that, in addition to the current?
I will be 100% transparent, and it's very consistent with other districts. We are 100% following the honor system on that. Is your child vaccinated? Are you vaccinated? I mean, to be blunt, we don't have the manpower or the personnel going back to what Dr. Motley is saying to chase down vaccination cards or a picture of a vaccination card and sending that.
It seems like it'd be very difficult to try to figure out
Absolutely.
the time with the rolling time frames and the booster
Just going
component.
back to the 5-day piece, and I don't know if that's been decided here or not, if we would wish to go that direction, I guess for anybody who's listening or watching this video, if we do go that route, we have talked about grandfathering those individuals who may be isolated for 10 days, say they're in day 6, and then just like we did with the mass to stay piece with quarantining, we allowed them to come back. I would just ask that if people are watching or listening to this, that even if we decided today to not send their kids back tomorrow until district communication is officially
Correct.
sent, which
Correct.
would probably be sooner than later after this meeting. But I don't want people to hear the meeting and say, well, they decided this or talked about it, so I'm sending my kid tomorrow. That would come out sooner than later. Because I had a lot of those phone calls, a lot of them today. Hey, my kid's on day 4 or day 6 or day 8. If you guys talk about this tonight or decide it, you know, do I send my kid back on Tuesday? And I said there will be district communication, but I want to make sure that was clarified here.
Thank you for
But
that
I
detail.
would assume when you said it, and I would presume we're gonna decide this, you would send this out tomorrow so that we can get
Absolutely.
kids back to school.
Would-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So most likely on
I
Wednesday.
know you're busy, but.
Yeah, no, I know that would be
That's
as soon
a
as possible
priority.
too. I just don't want them to hear tonight and then they're gonna send
Right.
them tomorrow without it officially being sent out by the superintendent.
And the good news is we do already have something in draft form, and I actually spoke to a parent today to that same point who said, hey, my child is on day 5, day 6 will be tomorrow, you know, when will the communication come out? And I was very honest, like I knew we had a late meeting tonight. I didn't want to send something out at like 9:30, 10 o'clock tonight. So I told them, and it was a priority for us, and we already have a draft form. Amy's ready to go. We're going to look at it one more time, and we'll be able to send it early tomorrow morning.
Are the absentees, is the absenteeism pretty evenly split throughout the district, or is it like focused on any particular grade level?
I will say the high schools are worse, to be candid.
It seems
I
like
think
it from the
high
notifications.
schools
I
are
think.
worse. Let me share as a visual. Here are the data points. Anytime you see this long blue line, that's a high school. This other long blue line is a high school. So definitely the burden is at the high school in both high schools. On one day, for example, Northview had 123. On another day, Southview had 108. Same day, I'm sorry. On another day, January 5th, Northview, for example, had 145. Southview had 111. And I think it's just the sheer size of the building and the number of interactions those students have.
I
It's
don't
just
think there's any
relative.
percentage that's like through the roof in one building
That's good.
compared to the
No.
other. I haven't witnessed that.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have my blessing.
Yeah.
5 days.
Thank you.
I'm on board.
Yeah, obviously.
you.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for that
Communication
update.
will be coming out tomorrow.
But
First thing,
So
hopefully
bring it
before.
back
Exactly. It'll make a lot of folks happy. Well, thank you for the good dialogue and the conversation. I know typically I share other things during the superintendent's report, but in lieu of the circumstances with community health, I thought it was important to talk about that tonight. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Malley. Now we're at the first opportunity for public participation for items on the agenda. Amy? None? Okay. Dr. Malley, we are back with you.
Thank you, Mr. Feller. I recommend item 4.1, a memorandum of understanding in collaboration with SEA, our Teachers Association. This memorandum of understanding is designed to relieve the burden of increased absences of our staff, specifically our teachers, as a result of COVID. We are looking to assign building substitutes at each of our elementary buildings as a start to cover classrooms, cover planning periods, potentially not only for those individuals to cover a building, but if all the staff shows up in a building, that building substitute can transfer to another building or serve as a paraprofessional to provide in our library, to provide planning periods, or to provide services for students with developmental disabilities. Those are our most involved students that may need support. Please note that these funds will be, or these positions will be compensated out of ESSER funds because ESSER is designed to be a relief to districts financially as a result of unintended consequences of COVID.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
A second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, Mr. Dornbush, call the roll.
Mrs. Con, I'm sorry, Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette,
Yes.
Ms. Huffman,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Feller.
Yes.
I think you forgot
Did you
Mrs.
get
Conklin.
Kim first? Kim made the motion.
He started and then he went to, it's all right.
Mrs. Conklin,
Yes.
thank you.
I'm just kidding, I can't speak for you.
I mean, you can.
I recommend item 4.2, which is a memorandum of understanding with our OPC union. This is for the purpose of allowing additional time for paraprofessionals to collaborate, communicate with classroom teachers, in addition to supporting our students with transportation needs before and after school.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Ms. Huffman,
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette,
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Feller.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 4.3 for the advertisement for bids, more specifically for the renovation of roofs at Arbor Hills and Timberstone Junior High Schools.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mrs. Lavalette,
Yes.
Mr. Feller.
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin,
Yes.
Ms. Huffman,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 4.4 for approval, that Mr. Larry Ray, quote unquote, Halston, be appointed Director of Business Operations effective January 11th through July or 31st of 2024, and that he be placed on the administrative salary as noted.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Discussion?
It's just clarification, so the additional duties, he was previously the director of the food.
Nutrition services.
Nutrition services. So the additional duties that we're combining with this new position are what?
Maintenance and grounds and facilities, and he will continue with nutrition services.
Okay.
We've expanded his calendar as well. I believe he was at 205 maybe, number of days, and quite frankly, he's been doing both
Okay.
for the past, I want to say, probably 2 months, no longer than that, since Mr. Kinsel has departed. He's been doing it.
So we won't have a director of facilities, this sort of combines the two?
It combines his department to oversee business operations. So he's going to be the upper tier, and you'll see another gentleman's name who's also following up, who will also help in the capacity, but more of a boots on the grounds person in regards to maintenance and grounds and facilities. So business operations is the big umbrella, and under that he will oversee child nutrition services, maintenance, grounds, and facilities.
Not transportation.
Not
So
transportation.
are there any positions that we aren't going to fill because of these two positions?
Well, we actually are doing a right size adjustment, because we did have, as you recall, an assistant superintendent that was an upper tier with HR, but then HR was carved out, and then they just did operations, and he was kind of like the business manager of sorts. Then we had an individual that was director of facilities. We are really combining those departments and adding people that have different qualifications to carry the workload. So for example, one of the things that we're very much interested in is establishing a preventative maintenance plan. That includes for our roofs, our buildings, our parking lots, just the nature of all the, even equipment. The other piece is we're also interested in having an assessment done on our facilities. When should we build new buildings? What is the capacity of our buildings? We don't have a good handle on that. We have some data from 2018. I think that's the last time we have data. But also pursuing at an upper level, what are our plans, and running that plan of recourse for the district for 5 years and for 10 years. Also, Ray will be in charge of really overseeing the big projects. If we have vendors that are needed, if we need to do requests for proposals, quite frankly, he was the one that worked with Ms. Shanks in getting the requests for proposals for the roofs. He sat in on that process and sat in on the bid process. So he's been heavily involved in some of that upper level, higher tier type work as it is already. And he also has been involved when, I want to say, our geothermal, I'm going to call it something that it's not, so forgive me, but I believe it's a geothermal heating system that has rods in the in the ground. He was involved out there trying to figure out how do we replace those rods at one of our newer buildings. I want to say it was Hillview, perhaps, and being involved with what's the process to replace that equipment. So definitely a person that has experience. Ray, for those of you who may not know, has quite a background. He has a degree in business administration. He actually was a franchisee and initial owner of City Barbecue. He also helped design and was in the ground construction level, I should say the foundation level of constructing, and I'm going to mess up the name. I shared it with you. It's a catering, has a big gold dome on it, catering. Oh, it's off of, oh my goodness, it escapes me. I don't want to embarrass myself more than I already have, but he has had experience in construction and development of facilities, so he does have background there.
If I can chime in too, I think, Julie, to kind of answer your question, if you rewind 2 years ago when Dr. Motley had this on her grease board in her office when we talked about this, it's actually going to be a cost savings. When you take away an assistant superintendent, a food service director, and a facilities director, and now Ray, even though his salary is changing, is taking on the facilities and food service, and if you approve Chris, he would kind of assist with that facilities as well.
So basically, you're showing how well you know me, because that's
Was that the question?
That was the question.
I missed that too. He's my interpreter. Can you scoot down? Can you just move down here?
Thanks, Tim.
Cost savings.
I'm good.
Yes, there's a cost savings.
That's all
Is that
I
what
got.
you were going for?
Yeah, we're adding
Just
some-
All right,
cost
is there any
savings.
positions? Assistant superintendent.
Yes, thank you. Teamwork. Thank you, sir.
If I may,
Yes, thank you.
I just would like to pipe in only because I was here yesterday and set the alarm off. So I got to meet this gentleman, and actually turned into like an hour conversation. I think he went to UT and has that finance background and wants to learn budgets even more than he already is. I'm already excited about this guy, just getting to know him, just because I can tell he really wants to. He wants to get budgets. He wants to do those long-range planning things, and just kids that go to our school here, right? So it's an exciting hire. I mean,
Thank you.
yeah.
Appreciate that. Cost savings, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if we were like losing a position.
No.
Got it.
We're modifying
That's fair.
positions and saving money.
Superintendent.
Yes.
We're only gonna have one of those, right?
Yes.
I'm not obviously gonna see here's a new assistant superintendent.
No.
We're just gonna have one.
One assistant
Okay.
superintendent. Thank you
Okay.
for speaking Ms. Hoffman's language
Got it.
and translating for me, sir. Appreciate that.
All right, any more discussion?
It's too funny.
All right, Mr. Dornbush, you call the roll.
Mrs. Conklin.
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette.
Yes.
Ms. Huffman.
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Feller.
Yes.
Next, I am recommending item 4.5, appointment of Chris White as Supervisor of Facilities and Business Operations. This is part 2 of our reorganizing of the department. And Chris is here tonight with us. I invited him to join us, but I wanted to share a little bit of background. Chris currently, I believe is working, well, let me back up. Chris has been around the area for a long time, and Chris has worked at Perrysburg schools, he's worked at Lourdes University, Libby's Glass, and even back to Sears and Roebuck's, which is something, you have a lot of experience, that goes way back. But he has, he's a graduate of Springfield High School, we won't hold that against you. But more importantly, he has just a significant background in as an industrial electrical maintenance. He's developed preventative maintenance programs. He has done electrical troubleshooting and repair of all electrical systems with state and city facilities. HVAC, which is something we really need, with preventative maintenance, troubleshooting, and repair of chillers and boilers. He's led a team, Mr. Feller, you'll be interested in this, in building a e-gaming room that became a model for other universities. So not even high schools, but other universities. And you know how I am about esports, so that was something that was very important. He also has built energy management systems for facilities, so to reduce lighting after hours and to reduce, really, it reduces expense, but it also serves as cost avoidance. So actually, Chris will work with Ray to do more of the boots on the ground type stuff. And also, if you recall from our department review, it actually called for a person just like Chris. Chris has applied in our district more than once. and I'm thrilled to be able to bring him aboard as part of our team to work with Ray. Ray is excited to have him on board. One of the things he will be in charge of, if you remember Mr. Shammy's position, purchasing, inventory, we have some cleaning up to do in that area and managing our warehouse in regards to making sure we have the materials on hand that we need instead of running out to Lowe's with a credit card, but having some basic supplies and materials on hand. So I recommend the approval of Chris White as Supervisor of Facilities and Business Operations. And again, it should be noted, the combination of these positions are a cost savings to the district.
With that, I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion?
I'll just chime in on that as well, not to keep talking, but something that stood out in the interview process. I'll be shocked if our contracted services don't reduce, based on, I know Dr. Motley said it, with HVAC and electrical and probably even some plumbing services that he's like, you guys contract that out, I can do that. I can take this on. Our team can do this. So really stood out to me. So again, more cost savings on top of just the salary piece. I'm confident down the road.
But no pressure.
Yeah.
It's
No,
said
he's not.
publicly
He's not.
at a meeting, so we're voting that he's
No.
going to save us money. I like it.
Tim promised.
Yep.
Tim
I'll
promised.
take it. I'll take it. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'll be on the spot.
All right, call the roll.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. LaVallette?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Chris. Welcome aboard.
Serving the district.
Yay. Alrighty, moving along, item 4.6 is the recommendation of administrator additional duties for Larry Ray Halston. This is really to cover his duties from January 1st through January 10th. We gave Ray a temporary contract through the end of December, so this is just extending it through actually today and tomorrow he will roll into his official position.
We have
I'll
a
move
motion.
approval.
A second.
Any further discussion? All right, call the roll.
Mrs. LaVallette?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin? Ms.
Yes.
Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 4.7 for approval, which is for Jane Spurgeon to serve as interim executive director for the human capital position, ergo the Department of Human Resources. Her contract also expired December 31st, and Jane has kindly agreed to stay on board through February 24th. And please note for the record, I tried to get more days out of her.
I'll work on that.
Please do.
I'm on
Please.
approval. If you're watching, Jane.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All right, call the roll.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. LaVallette?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Thank you. And finally, item 4.8, I recommend approval, the revision of the SAW handbook to include Director of Business Operations, a name change for the Director of Disability Services to Director of Special Education to bring that title more into the 21st century, and also to include Chris's new position of Supervisor of Business Operations. Supervisor of Business Operations.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval. A second.
Any further discussion? Call,
It was Jill.
call the roll.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. LaVallette?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 5.1, license extra duty pay. You will note there are various opportunities noted on the agenda for extra duty pay for our staff as they work to support not only our students but their colleagues. More specifically, you'll see some ACT prep. You'll also see 70 hours for student support for a student with special needs for the Northview Disney band trip. You will see 5 hours of supporting students in a separate facilities over winter break. And I've asked Tim to speak to this. You'll see a number of buildings that we are recommending additional hours for intervention services. More specifically, these services will be funded through ESSER funds to support the needs of our students. And Tim, if you could share a little bit about what those responsibilities will look like and how our students will benefit.
Yeah, you see 4 elementaries on there for this meeting. The other 3, Central, Whiteford, and Hillview, you'll see them on shortly. But one of the main objectives for the ESSER 3 funding was to focus on learning loss through the pandemic. So our elementary principals, along with their building leadership teams and just teachers overall, have stepped up mainly to create some before school and after school programs to get those kids, our highest need kids, who based on data have shown learning loss, bringing them in before school and after school. So a lot of the extra duty pay are for those teachers who are willing to come in and provide that service. Kudos to them as well. We all know they're tired, they're exhausted, and they're willing to put in that time before and after school. Another big piece that a lot of our elementaries are implementing is a subscription to IXL. It's a personalized, computerized learning platform that combines curriculum with other diagnostics and analytics. It just breaks down, it's basically just individualized learning for students that teachers can access to see where they're at, what part of reading they need to focus on, and it helps them with the differentiation. So IXL is a big program. I think right around 400,000 teachers across the country use it. We have used it in some of our buildings before, but that funding is going to be used specifically for some before school and after school intervention, as well as some IXL licenses. A lot of those building principals, I will share all of these plans with you in Soup Notes on Friday, but the other buildings are kind of wrapping up as well, but that's what most of this funding is used for, which is a good thing. That was the main objective for it.
Are you just doing these one at a time or consent agenda?
Is this consent?
Pardon me?
Consent agenda?
It is,
It says consent.
yeah, it is consent. Thank you for keeping me on track. Thank you, Tim. Item 5.3, I recommend, or 5.2 rather, I recommend approval of a licensed retirement. Gail Brenner is leaving, 28 years. I tell you, we've had quite a few retirements here in the last couple of board meetings. I wish Gail the best. I know 28 years of service to our students and families. That's truly, that's dedication, and we appreciate it. And she will be truly missed. She's been with our district a very long time, but she also deserves to enjoy another part of her life's journey. So she will be leaving effective June 1st. I recommend item 5.3, the approval of licensed substitute teachers. Look at us, we're up by 4. I also.
I'm down by 3 now.
Oh,
That's a plus one.
Well,
That's
that's
okay.
plus 1. Keep it. We're going plus 1. I also recommend item 5.4, licensed substitute teachers resignations. And item 5.5, I recommend all items 5.1 through 5.4 on a consent agenda basis.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 5.1 through 5.4.
Plus one.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Call the roll.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend items 6.1 through 6.3 on a consent agenda basis. Item 6.1 is actually, we have 3 new hires to the district, as noted. Item 6.2, we have a few classified resignations. And item 6.3 notes the number of individuals who are changing departments or levels of position within the district or different classifications. Again, I recommend item 6.4 on a consent agenda basis, the approval of items 6.1 through 6.3.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval, item 6.1 through 6.3 on a consent agenda basis.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
Mrs. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Feller?
Yes. And now we are at the board committee reports. Start Tammy,
I don't have anything to report.
Jill, Kim,
I do not.
Julie. And the only thing I have is Sage Yard. We're planning on, I believe, Friday making our appointment for our Sage Yard rep for this year. So, and now we're at the second opportunity for public participation for non-agenda items. Seeing none, I will move that we go into executive session for the purposes of, Jeff, is it employment and
Land.
land? Yes.
Acquisition.
Employment and land.
Employment, yes. That's
Employment
right.
and acquisition of property.
So
That's
moved.
it.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the roll?
Actually, Mr. Feller moved it.
Yeah, I
I'll
think I
second
moved it.
that.
Okay, that's okay. Mr. Feller?
Yes.
Ms. Huffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Yes.
And Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
And we will not be taking action after executive.